Today is June 11th, 2019. This is a meeting of the Acushnet Board of Selectmen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to remind all present that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. Could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First motion is regarding the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second, Mr. DeRoche?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda is meeting mail. We have a letter from Mr. John Tavares, who's expressing his support regarding the change in town hall meeting hours. Town hall's been open for most of the past year till 7 o'clock on a Tuesday. And Mr. Tavares wrote a letter just expressing his support and saying how helpful that was to him as a way to get to town hall to conduct his business, because he works out of the area, and with normal hours, which were 4 o'clock Monday through Friday, he would not be able to get here. So we do have that. Those extended hours were an experiment on the part of town hall, and that's something on the agenda for our next meeting to discuss whether or not that experiment continues into the future. So, motion to place a letter on file.
I'll second a motion. Will I make the motion? Motion to
Second.
accept the letter as submitted?
All in favor?
Aye.
Our appointment for 5:05 is change of manager for Bonneville's Market. Do their presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Attorney John Meridian, Democus Law Offices, and with me is Nandubai Patel. Today we're before you to ask for approval of change of manager on the alcohol license from Jigushaben Patel to Nandubai. Unfortunately, Jigushaben passed away recently, and Nandubai is the owner and will be managing the premises going forward.
Sorry for your loss. Make a motion to approve the change in the manager for Bonneville Market as presented.
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our appointment for 5:10 is a poll hearing on the petition of Verizon and N-Star to place one JO pole, a joint operator pole? Joint owned pole on the westerly side of Keene Road. Is there anyone here on that matter?
Good evening. My name is Ross Billadu, representing Verizon New England this evening. Like you stated, looking to place one new jointly owned pole, 75 over 13 and a half on the westerly side of Keene Road, at a point approximately 91 feet north of the existing pole 13 and 80 feet south of the existing pole 14. This was a request that was originally generated by N-Star Electric, but Verizon is the maintaining and setting party in this town, so we will be the ones setting the pole. The reason they need the new pole is to reach up a new driveway. Someone's building a house in the back, so we need to reach some poles that are being placed on their property.
And the pole's not going to be in the middle of anyone's driveway, it's safe to assume?
Oh, absolutely not. No,
Okay.
it's staked out there in the field right now. It's off to the side of a driveway and on the property line, so should be all set.
Okay. Is there anyone else here to discuss that pole placement? Gentlemen, any questions?
None? All right. No. Make a motion to approve placing one joint-owned pole, 75/13.5 on the westerly side of Keene Road as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was easy.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our appointment at 5:15 is with Nicholas Gomes. attorney and our town moderator, who's here to talk with us about paper streets, which is something he was tasked with studying on behalf of the town maybe a year ago, and something we'd like to move forward. So, welcome, Mr. Gomes.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, members of the Select Board and those watching at home, employees of the town, and members in the audience here today. I want to thank you very much. I was tasked with taking a look at two properties in particular for the town, this being Hindle Street, which is located off of Nyes Lane in the northern part of town, and then also Rott Street off of South Main Street. Both of these properties are paper streets, which basically there's a section that is not developed, but it is on plans. Here, two residents came forward, which were the abutters to these parcels, requesting information on if they could ultimately have these properties. I conducted, and I figured this was going to be an issue that was ripe throughout the town of Acushnet, as with most towns which have plans over developing the town, seeking future expansion, where the realities and changes and regulations make those existing plans no longer feasible to actually put into production. Here, looking at these two properties, they are very similar, that they have parts undeveloped. But what I want to focus your attention to in my correspondence to you, dated December 20th, 2017, which I believe you may have in front of you. On page 3, the most important part is General Law, Chapter 82, Sections 21 to 24, so I'd like to discuss with you here tonight. And this goes over discontinuing the public way. So here...
Which paragraph are you in on this page?
This is the last paragraph of that page, I apologize. So when we go forward as a municipality and go to accept the road, we go by town meeting. Here, that's a direct analogy to discontinue the road. We go put it before the town meeting, and as long as there's the majority vote, generally, then it's good to go. And by town meeting, we can have that discontinued. But my concern is there may be repercussions in discontinuing a road because there is statutory authority for the payment of damages in diminishing someone's parcel. So here, the most easy way to show this would be a landlocked parcel which has access to a paper road. And then once that is discontinued, it is thereby diminishing their right because they have no access. These are just some of the issues that I see and why I wanted to give you a broad approach. Another issue that I came across in reviewing the municipal records as well as the county records at the Registry of Deeds was that during the time frame of these plans being recorded in the 50s, I do not think the town was following the proper procedure of giving a 7-day notice period to the property owners who would be affected, as well as having the plans recorded at town clerk's office and holding the town meeting vote. Through my discussions and contact with the town clerk, I did find that there were no plans filed for these two particular roads, but there was an indication that at town meeting they were accepted. So here,
The accepted roads that don't exist.
so here it is partially developed, and so I should have explained this in further detail to explain. Rott Street does have connections to, I believe it's Lorraine Avenue and another street, which are paved. This is just a mere section of that plan which is not paved. It basically looks like it's going into the woods at the end of a road. And there are pictures attached to my documents that I submitted.
I don't have that part of it.
Hindle Street, which is on the Nyes Lane closest reference point, is a gravel road off of a paved road. But here, gravel, pavement, it doesn't matter, because there are rights that could be affected with the very filing of the plan. And that was the true purpose of being as thorough and getting this to the selectmen. So I do understand where the residents coming forward would want this parcel, essentially their parcel, to be expanded. And what I specifically mean by that is, how did the town's right to the public way come about? Because that is what is most important, and that was the core of researching the title. The records indicate that it was done through the acceptance, as I just stated, by town meeting, but the ownership rights in the ground, the fee simple absolute interest, was not in the name of the town. My research of the title shows that it was in the predecessors and title of the landowners who are coming forward today. So what this would mean is discontinuing the path. That fee simple interest would still maintain with the owners who own the land. It just will not be encumbered by the town and the public's right for egress and travel. So here we're just getting rid of that public right of travel on that paper road. So I'm okay with doing so because it benefits the residents of the town. It's not necessary, in my opinion, on these two roads in particular. My only safeguards that I would say the selectmen may want to consider in moving forward is doing another analysis to make sure that there is no properties potentially out there which could have their property rights diminished, as well as dealing with anything that may come up in that regard, indemnification of these owners. As far as costs, here, as I stated in my closing lines of the correspondence, it is potentially just a simple recording cost at the registry, going forward with another article at town meeting. But if we do look at this approach grandiose throughout the entire town of Acushnet, there may be other issues, and it's something that is putting a heavy burden on the residents, which there's no real benefit. So ultimately, that is just my opinion on it. We can go forward, and what it would look like I said, is that brief review to make sure there's no other parcels that are surrounding there might have a property interest diminished, as well as drafting the basic legal description. So I should have probably started with this, Selectman Cabral, to answer your question. Here we would be looking at width of the road, about 50 feet for Broad Street, which is being discontinued. And then on Hindle Street, it's a little bit longer. And here, Hindle Street is a good example of how we're uncovering other paper streets, because the next street just north of it is another paper street. And it's just, once you make that decision, it's been made.
Now, you did, Mr. Gomes, you did some, I don't remember the date of it, this might have been your original letter, you did some, general work on the paper streets issue for the town, and you came in and speaking with Mr. Noble, and we talked about the fact that in the town of Acushnet, there are maybe 50-ish paper streets in the town, and
That might be a little high, but there's a
there's
huge number.
There's a lot. And, we talked about, a comprehensive strategy for how do we deal with all these paper streets. And I saw that as a monumental task, because I saw each street having unique issues based on where it's located, what surrounds it, whether or not it causes a property to be landlocked. In some cases, that wouldn't happen. In other cases, it would. You might have neighbors that would object to discontinuing it. You might have people arguing over who would get the paper street. So I didn't think it was possible to have a comprehensive strategy for dealing with paper streets. But what I did suggest is that I know in the case of both of these streets, we've had residents request that the town look at these streets and take action with regard to these streets. So I thought that these two would be a good test case as to what we should do and how we should do it. and not necessarily deal with all 50, 30, 35, whatever the number is, not necessarily deal with all of them, but deal with these two, we apply the same strategy to other streets when we need to.
I think it's a great approach to get the public involved and have them come forward, because they would be the ones with the intimate knowledge of those plans, because not anyone just looks around for fun inside of plans, registries and such. And they would be the ones to benefit, and it would be logical. So I am inviting, and Selectman Cabral is as well, inviting residents of the town to come forward. That is a good idea. In my research, and this is something I looked into preparing for today, there was a case where I think it was the town of Burlington attempted through legislature have a global, let's just correct all of the maps. And the case law came forward and said that you can't do it like that. You need to be a little bit more specific. And the reason why is you're affecting people's property rights, and they're held high, protected by the Constitution. So they just want to make sure it's done correctly. So if we did have a global, we knew all the paper streets, I'm sure we could craft the proper legal descriptions and do a one fell swoop while meeting the necessary criteria. So yes, we can do that, and the public's involvement or efforts of the town to do so. But my recommendation would be any type of sweat help from the residents would be better for the town from a cost perspective, rather than paying to have the tedious work of going through all the maps, comparing it to the actual Google Maps and see where the issues are, which properties are actual paper roads, and then take it the next step further of which paper roads should stay and which ones should be removed. So I think
these two, we've
see what
got
comes forward.
residents' requests to deal with them. So, and this is not on the agenda as an action item tonight, so no votes tonight, but we've got resident requests that we take some action on these streets. So I'd like to, look at the plans. I've got Hindle Street here. I'm a little bit confused about Roach Street, and what we're doing there. But I'd like to figure out a way to move these forward in compliance with the law, whether it needs to be advertised, offered to anybody that would want to buy them, if we've got to take that step. Or
So here, I
can't imagine they're going to be that attractive.
There should be no need for any type of conveyance, because we just had the easement right for travel on the road. So we are not selling, transferring for any type of consideration or value. We're just
Abandoning the easement.
abandoning the easement.
It's an easement.
Correct.
It's all the town owns.
Yes.
So for the purpose of the property tax at the moment, nobody's being taxed on that easement.
It's an easement, or
My understanding of the title, now in here, Selectman Cabral, not every road is the same, and
Yeah.
they must be analyzed separately. But in here, what you're looking at is, at the time that the town moved to have the road accepted, who owned the ground beneath it? And if it is not the town,
it
it's
wasn't
the
a
owner.
conveyance, though, it was an easement.
Correct.
Really?
It's essentially a taking
A taking.
by an easement, yes. And
Okay.
or I should say, the form of the taking is the easement, by the will of the town in
One of
the
these
voted
cases,
town
it was the
meeting.
developer of the property surrounding it that laid out the streets and surrendered an easement to the town. So the town never, then the town voted to accept the streets as then named, but we never really perfected the ownership of the easement. We assumed the easement.
And
It's because
what I
it's
thought,
1952.
Right.
yes.
So the question then is, so, for example, the abutters in this particular case, they don't own the land either. So
Yeah, if we just walk away.
if we walk away, nobody owns the land.
Nobody owns it, yeah. Yeah.
So here we have, I'm going to maintain that I believe it's the title owner at the time of the road
the
being
original-
accepted.
the
This is what it's
developer.
going back to.
This one.
So it's gotta go to the developer of the neighborhood.
Yes. But here, who's holding the title today, which is the residents coming forward. It's going to go.
No, their deeds don't show that easement. They're
No,
a butter to
no,
the easement.
The deeds don't show the easements.
They're not an easement on their deeds, they're a butter to an easement.
Yes.
Yes, here, but here, the easement itself is the road.
Correct. So if we want to walk away for our easement, someone has to convey the property to the abutters.
Yes. Yes. Which is what we want to have happen. We wouldn't want to just leave it out there, and we want people to have, if we're walking away from it, we want people to have use of it, and we want to give people an opportunity to own it, whatever that process looks like.
That is fine.
And
But
formally
my
convey it
position-
and-
My position isn't going to change, right now. I discuss it further and reflect, but my opinion is it's going back to the owners upon the exercise by the town to discontinue the way. It's going to revert back to the owner at that time.
So that would be whomever the developer was in 1952?
No, and when I say it's going to revert back to the land, and whoever's holding that land in today's present title.
Nobody
Basically,
is.
then,
There's no title on that land. It's not recorded, it's not listed, and the abutting properties are surveyed, and their deeds reflect properly what we're currently recorded as their property. And that easement is not incorporated in either one of the abutting properties.
Yeah, of course, Mr. Gasper.
So I'm looking at,
Yes.
I'm sorry, you ready to speak?
no, I was just going to say, this
You
is
can-
something that I would
And we need
look
this more work.
into
Mr.
to
Jones.
give you the specific answer on, and look into the specific deeds and the index, which I may do in a moment.
So I guess it's a little confusing on the nature of why we're doing these things, and I guess I understand that some residents might have paper roads that they don't, there's no land use in it, they just want it part of their land, so maybe they can maintain it, make it look a little bit better, whatever the case may be, but there's actually two paper streets, Hindle and Highland Street, with lots subdivided in the back. So I guess the first question is, because you said that you have to make sure that nobody's gonna be impacted by this dissolution of this public way, right?
If you discontinue.
Yes.
So if you're looking at this little piece of street that we're talking about, according to that, it's a small portion of a road. You gotta make sure that that road leading into there is not gonna disrupt anybody else that may have possible developable land. Because once you do that, if we were to do that, would the town be on the hook for that cost? Or would it be the resident on the town that now took that land? Is it the town that's on the hook for
Yeah.
landlocking that land? Because if you do the dissolution of the paper street and somebody out back says, wait a minute, that was my only way in, as this map might allude to, it looks like there's some lots back there. I don't know what's really going on in today's world. That map
Yeah.
right there, yes, sir.
So if we're looking at this map, would be triggered when the town moved to discontinue the portion of Hindle Way, which could,
But you still have access from Lucy or this one, you have access from
So you have to look at other access points first in your discovery to see if you're not gonna be landlocking anybody or,
So you could do away.
that is correct. My understanding, that area we're looking at, 201 right now, is all just forestry, is my understanding.
but
At
who
this
owns it?
time.
But who owns it, and is there a potential for development there? If I have 3 house lots and they're worth $100,000 apiece, that's $300,000 worth of damages I may be looking for, right?
Yeah, and maybe I didn't explain it thoroughly when I started trying to jump right in here. But the purpose of my research was ultimately to focus on the paper street. That's why I recommended the next step would be to do that next thorough research of the surrounding parcels in seeing if we're going to impede on anyone's property interest. And the reason why the focusing on just the parcel, which is, thank you, the paper street, is that's the moment in title that you need to examine to see who owned it at that time. And because my analysis is that it's the private landowner at the time, not the town, it's going to automatically revert back to whoever's owning that property underlying the paper street in today's.
Mr. Gomes, we got two. Mr. DeRoche, did you want to say something before I?
Well, my assumption was that if it's a paper street, that the town owns it. And maybe just in these cases, because Hindle Street in 1952, it says, so the authorized selectmen to lay out Hindle Street, and they voted to accept Hindle Street is laid out as a street. So did we accept it, and then it's the town street? And now if the abutters want to, and now we're gonna dissolve the paper street, do the abutters, does the town sell that property to the abutters? Is that how it works? I mean, if it's deemed it's unimpeding anybody else, if it's wetland, I did a little bit of looking at these properties, there's a lot of wetlands, so I really don't think it's developable land. You know, I'm not saying it isn't, but there is wetlands, a lot of different, you know, issues to the property. So is it just that the people want it dissolved, you know, individual cases that people just want it dissolved to add to their yard? And then, you know, how does that change happen? Is that something that's purchased from the town for a price, and then those property owners incorporate that into their yard, and they pay taxes on it, you know?
So, to address the overall question, here we would be moving as a town to discontinue that portion of the road, and it's going to revert back to the property owner. So yes, they would be responsible for any additional taxes, which would be now not encumbered by the road. And then to additionally add, the can of worms really is that the town did not effectively comply with the letter of the law in creating the road in the first place, these roads. And here, I base that on not having the ability to show the record that the notice to the direct abutters were given of the intention to create it, as well as having the properly recorded plans at the town clerk's office. The good thing is that on one of the properties, Hindle Street, there was at least records at the Registry of Deeds, which I was able to find. So the overarching thing to take from the research is be thankful we are now following proper procedures going forward, but there are potential issues like this that are going to come about, and it's better to resolve them by working with the residents, getting them on board early, and to any of them. The key takeaway is that it's going to be by the town meeting, getting the approval at town meeting, so we have time to get those legal descriptions verified, which we should be able to do from the maps. But I want to make sure everyone's in agreement, and of course the town is protected in full, both with the direct abutters it's dealing with, as well as anyone outside of the realm which could be impacted by these decisions.
Mr.
So,
Gasper, have a question?
I just have one more question, and I know that we have a lot more work to do, so wherever the chairman decides to take this, but on the front page, it says, the family obtained the vacant lot in 2017, meaning 77th Lambert Street. On the second page, top paragraph, last sentence, it says, the Selectmen's plan shows the road as a 40-foot wide way, with the town owning 3 lots abutting Hindle Street, including 77 Lambert Street. So,
Yes, so,
that was on the front page, it's saying the family obtained 2017 77 Lambert, but on the next page on the top, it says that the town owns 3 abutting lots on Hindle, including 77 Lambert Street. So who owns 77 Lambert Street? I'm confused.
just give me one moment.
No problem.
What
I'm trying
What I
to.
can tell you is that the reason why I noted that the Selectmen's plan showed the road as a 40-foot right-of-way, owning 3 lots abutting Hindle Street, it was just for the fact, for going back to the document, that is going to be favorable. And going back in the chain of title,
Oh, yeah, yours is-
I expected to find more property owned by the town, but I did not take it that far back in my title search, because in the most efficient way possible, I was getting to the essence of the core of the paper street at
Mr.
the
Bell's
time it was made.
Could I,
I
so
have it. You
we've
don't have it.
we got resident, and there's a lot of detail here, and not intending to put you on the spot here tonight. and
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail here, and you did a lot of really good work here. And I guess that what I task you with the concurrence of the board we've got resident requests that we abandon these two paper streets, that you look at both of these situations closely and recommend to us a course of action with regard to both of these parcels. If we were to abandon both of these paper streets as requested, what would you recommend as a course of action to us? And just again, not to, there's a lot of detail here, but
Yes.
just leave with that task. If we were to abandon these streets, how would you recommend we do it? What course of action should we follow? And we will choose whether or not to take that course of action. Is that reasonable?
I think so, and I think we just need to know the impact to other people, right?
Exactly, all of that.
That's
all
part of the
all of
equation.
that. Is
So
it
if we look at
possible to
the
do it?
impact.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
and how
I
much-
believe that's
And how much would
the-
you, and let us know what what it would cost us to do that.
Not now, but I mean, we need
Yeah,
to know
not now,
something.
not
You
now.
can communicate that with the town administrator, but let's figure it out so we know what we're looking at for the future. Because there might be several lots you have to look at that might not be that, that might be old and they might be combined now.
Yeah,
Yes,
I didn't
and
mean
I
to a
should-
$50,000 bill. I mean, just
Yes.
give us a sense of,
But here, my reasoning in drafting the broad scope of the December 2017 letter is to apprise the board of the relevant laws that are coming together here.
No, this is very well
In
very well
a
done.
cost-efficient manner without going into the additional research which it's going to take. And it's easy to point out, but there's more detail that is
Could
required.
you work with
and I will
Mr. Noble and
do
let
that.
him know what this process would look like and what anticipated costs could be?
Yes, and I'm going to specifically look at what Selectman Gaspar noted regarding 77 Lambridge Street in the first two pages.
His copy doesn't have it and mine does.
My
Yeah,
copy
my
doesn't,
copy
my
is
copy
different.
doesn't have it either.
So I don't know what copy I got, but I got a different
There might
copy.
be two versions of the letter where you corrected a mistake and you pulled a new one.
So let's just forget about that right now, Mr. Gomes. I don't want to get you hung up on something that may have not have been printed.
Right, and this is.
Yeah,
Because his is
we'll take a
different than
look.
mine.
I like to be complete. Thank you very much. Anything further?
His stops dead in its tracks.
Mine doesn't
No,
have it.
yours says it too.
Mine says it too.
Yeah, mine does not.
His says it.
So
Mine
we have
says
two
it.
versions of your letter, so we'll need to find out which
Yeah,
one
we'll
is true. Okay.
confirm.
Mrs. Murray, I know you're one of the residents impacted by this. Is there anything you wanted to help us understand that we're missing? Or-
We actually own 77 as well, so.
I'm sorry?
We actually are the owners of 77 Lambert.
76, so does this paper street cut through your property? Is
Yeah.
that, okay, so, and the map we're showing, we're looking for the complete abandonment of the paper road is the request, not just a parcel of it, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and
And
anything else that,
beyond our property, that is wetlands
beyond, all right.
at the end of our property.
Right, so it's non-developable.
No.
Okay.
And I believe conservation has been there and looked at that, so.
So is the intent of the family, your family, because the paper street separates two lots that you happen to own, by getting rid of dissolving that paper road, it would actually be able to merge the two lots to make it more buildable for any reason in particular, or is it just to combine the two lots?
No, I mean, that's not really the plan right now. We really don't know. At the time, we just wanted to, add that Tahoe lot, and then we had the opportunity to buy that land,
Sure.
so.
I suspect that paper street is
Right.
invisible in your yard, that you just, it's part of you believe it to be, it appears to be part of your property, I'm not sure what it,
No, it's kind of just messy, it's cleared, but it's kind of,
No man's land.
it's not
it's
your,
not
it's not your
maintained.
yard, it's not, no?
no, not really.
There's nothing in back in the woods back, I'm pretty familiar with where you are in your neighborhood, because I used to hang out up there back in the day. There's nothing further in the back though, right? That's just wooded, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all,
There's nothing really going on there, so.
No.
In certain I think, in certain situations, maybe this one in particular, there's no harm, no foul, I mean, to do it. But in other situations, you may be creating a hardship on others by dissolving the road, so, I mean, we'll just have to take a good look at it and get back. We can't do anything, because this has to go to town meeting, correct?
Both of these.
Yes.
So we can't do nothing for a year, basically a year,
Right, right.
10 months,
That's not the road.
so we got some time to work on it.
Specifically in regards to Hindle Street, there is the photograph which shows the stone wall across it. And for that property, what I would want to do is research behind it, the next street.
I don't have any
behind
of the exhibits in my booklet either, so I can't.
it. We'll make
You
sure,
reference several exhibits, but I can't look at them because I don't have them, so.
I will
He's got them.
be sure that this gets corrected. Thank you.
I'll take a look at it. I'll take a look at it. We got time. I mean, it's gotta go to town meeting if we were to decide to do this anyway, so we'll look at the impact. Let's look at the impact.
Yeah, I think we've got a paper street book, I remember being distributed way back when, so I think we've all.
I don't
got
know,
some great-
Mr. Gomes, if you would want to be in touch with the
Mr.
Murray
Chairman?
family on, maybe they have some information they could share with you to make things a little bit easier. So if you have a business card, you may want
Thank you.
to, just saying, you might want to, just so that in case they have some information they can put forward and make your life a little bit easier in your research. I know that I have documents from the old days that most people don't even know that exist, so you might have something that may be helpful to Mr. Gomes in providing research for him and helping him go in the right directions instead of chasing his tail. So if you guys could just try to communicate after the meeting, that would be awesome.
Communicate with Mr. Noble, let's try to move this one forward to the extent we can.
Yes, yeah, no, yeah, I'm glad the Board of Selectmen were able to call me forward to get it to go forward. And I'm happy to answer any of the further questions that may arise, both from the members who have bought the properties, both of them in question, as well as the members of the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, old business, draft language regarding petitioning the fire department from civil service as requested by the House of Representatives, needed approval from the Board of Selectmen. I guess we submitted, so at town meeting, we voted to remove the fire department from civil service. We submitted some language through our Representative Hendricks to be approved by the House of Representatives, and they've requested a change, and that language has been distributed. What was suggested that they be added?
It was just a small change.
Just
And I need
Yeah.
a vote from the Board of Selectmen that you have no problem with the language as proposed.
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the language change requested by the House of Representatives exempting the fire department from civil service.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item under old business is the police department memorandum of understanding signing. I think we've already approved it, and this is the signing of the document which has been distributed. I've reviewed the document. It is in line with what was agreed with the police department. The police union has agreed to accept the terms and conditions offered, and we just need to vote to approve the memorandum of understanding, which will be turned into the new contract, I suspect.
Make a motion to approve the police department memorandum of agreement as presented.
And I will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? New business, we've got a request from the Lions Club to have their duck race videotaped and presented on Channel 18.
I make a motion to approve the video and presentment of the duck race on Channel 18 as presented.
Second.
Further discussion?
Happens every year. They do, Lions Club does a great job in the town of Acushnet. Wishing them nothing but success with it.
It's nice to have some variety on Channel 18 as well, I would think, rather than just playing this.
As long as we have a flowing river, we'll be doing okay.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Under new business, item 2 is the employee handbook, which has been distributed for first reading. We're not going to read it out loud. It's been formally delivered to the Board of Selectmen for our review. You know, it'll come back again next month, and we'll give everyone ample time to review it, have the opportunity to comment, to change whatever they feel is appropriate. I would encourage everyone, as you read it, to share your comments with Mr. Noble, and we'll share any suggested edits with everyone in the group. So any edits will be presented to the group as proposed changes, but no action required, just you've got it, we'll bring it forward again to our next meeting, and eventually we'll vote to accept it. I don't think there's a huge urgency on that, but I'd like to see it done, no more than 2 to 3 meetings from now.
Well,
Two would be
I'm hoping
good.
if it was well-written,
Yeah.
that we should be able to get this accepted very quickly. But it is available, and I'm so reluctant to post the draft on the website because it's merely a draft.
It's a draft.
It's not accepted.
Once it's accepted, you
Once it's
post.
accepted, it should be, but
Should post.
I want to make sure, like any other policy by the Board of Selectmen submitted for multiple reads, first and second reading, if it needs a third reading, we'll do a third reading. I'm hoping we can, get along with, we have another month and a half before we have to meet again, so. And I know that it's riveting bedside reading.
I've started.
Put you right to sleep after the
Sorry.
first page.
So just distributed, no action required. Item 3 on the agenda is current appointed bylaw committee discussion, review of matters presented. All right. So just a discussion item. I guess I'd like to see our bylaw review committee invigorated. And what caused me to put this on the agenda, I guess I was a little surprised to see, and I'm a member of the bylaw committee for the first time this year. I was a little surprised and disappointed that the bylaw committee was meeting 2 or 3 hours before town meeting to, at that point, review all the bylaws that were proposed for town meeting. So they were on the agenda, they had been proposed for town meeting, and the bylaw committee was just reviewing them for the first time. So I guess I'd like to see that committee become more active, more involved. I'd like to see them in the very early stage, endorsing changes to the bylaw before they went on the agenda of the town meeting. I see the bylaw review committee as being a very important body, and, I'd like to, try to supercharge that and get it more active in proposed bylaw changes, and maybe initiating these bylaw changes, maybe looking at the bylaws and saying, these are things that we should proactively change rather than waiting for things to be proposed. So I don't think this is here as an action item, but I'd like to, just letting you know, I guess, that I'd like to bring the bylaw review committee together and try to get them more engaged and maybe be more proactive with regard to the town bylaws. It may be time to do a complete review of the town bylaws and propose changes.
I think Ms. Labonte was supposed to be doing it several years back, no?
That was to codify them, not to change things.
I think it was to look at the redundancy of the two. Well, we could talk to Ms. Labonte about it, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
See what's out there.
Who's
But
on the committee?
I agree, Mr. Corral. I mean, I think, especially when the planning board is putting the bylaw forward for town meeting, and the bylaw committee, as you said, is reviewing this in the last, week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. You
It
say
was-
last few hours.
It was 3 hours
which is-
before the
which is-
town meeting.
It's not the way to do something.
3
You're
hours
basically
before
rubber
town
stamping it at that point. I think that when the planning board is gonna propose a bylaw change for town meeting, they should be doing it 60 days out and putting that information out, including giving it to the board for their review 60 days out and nothing less than that. So the bylaw review committee can do their job, because quite honestly, they're not doing their job if they're getting it 3 hours before the town meeting to vote on it, because if they have any input, it's null and void and pretty much dead in the issue. So it actually should go through that screening process and vetted much better than what it has been in the past, so I agree.
It's an important committee.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure why this is here or what I'm trying to say, but they're an important committee. I want them to understand they're an important committee, and I want them to be engaged in the process and be proactively engaged in the process.
And let them know that their input matters.
Their
That's what
input
they're there to
matters.
do.
That's what they're there to. I mean, bylaws shouldn't be coming to town meeting without the bylaw review committee being very comfortable with what's proposed and fully endorsing any changes and not meeting 3 hours before town meeting to
I agree.
To discuss, right.
discuss.
Now, wasn't this committee where the chairman resigned recently?
Yeah, we had some confusion over that.
There was some confusion. He resigned as chairman, not from the committee.
Right.
Okay.
So we almost, executed him from the committee. So my apologies for the misunderstanding.
Okay.
And he's still a member of the committee, he just doesn't want to be chairman. And I know somebody that would make a great chairman.
I will reach out to the active members of the committee and bring the group together and make sure that we figure out a way to go forward.
How many people on the committee?
I'm not even sure I know.
Okay.
the list.
I think there's
Oh.
7.
There's seven on the group. So I do want to reach out to the group.
Okay.
I do want to reach out to the group
It's 8.
and 8.
So you have an odd number, that's not a good thing either, because a 4-4 vote ties everything up. So you should have an odd number on the committee.
Yep.
So we should figure out, maybe we have an opening for the bylaw committee, and that's why it's not here, but we should either have 7 or 9.
I wonder what the bylaws say about that.
I wonder what the bylaw says about that. You're on the bylaw review committee.
I
What does the bylaw
know,
say?
I know, well, apparently, I'm not doing my job either.
Well, 2 of our alternates.
Okay,
Two
Right.
hours.
so we're still down to an even number,
Six.
8 minus 2.
Six.
Six. Yeah, we're still on
The
six.
chairman doesn't.
All right, well, but he can, though.
He
You can't break a tie.
Yep.
Okay,
He could also make a tie.
I'll see how I'm doing my agenda, all right. Interdepartmental transfer review, that's this sheet here.
Yes.
This is end of year. Mr. Noble, do you want to present this? This is
Sure.
end of year transfers within
All
the
of these
departments.
departments are under the authority of the Board of Selectmen and would require your approval to perfect these transfers. The Highway Department is requesting a transfer from the salaries of permanent laborers of $1,100 to the CMAS salaries position. That reflects the contractual increase not budgeted due to the timing of the approval after town meeting. And the second transfer, by the way, I could keep going and do them all at once, or do you want individually?
Now, go do them all.
Okay. Second request from the Highway Department is to move $27,000 from the permanent laborers account to the CMAS curbside pickup recycling removal. As you know, that covers the increase in the curbside pickup because of the recycling costs that have been skyrocketing. We have some of a bit of a reprieve with changing to waste management, so that acquisition of Howland has actually been a tremendous advantage to us. The third one is in the Selectmen's clerical, moving $10,000 to town council. Town council expenses have increased dramatically this year because of the 5 union contracts that were negotiated this year and the amount of money that we have spent on legal. We'd like to move from street lighting $4,500 to town buildings. We're going to we got a grant for additional charging stations. They'll install them for us at no charge, but we have to cover some of the cost of the equipment. It's about $4,500.
Where are the charging stations going?
The library, the schools, and the police.
Are we putting 3 more additional when we have 3 electric cars, 2 electric cars? and 3
It's not so much for us per se, but getting ready for the future. These would be available to the public
For a year.
for a year. And then we could charge. But to be honest with you, the cost of charging is about 56 cents an hour. So at the moment, we're not being abused too outrageously on it.
And the police
So-
are supposed to advance to electric vehicles.
Anyway, so here we have an opportunity to throw some electrical charging
Should
stations
we
in
put
at
one
somebody
there?
else's cost. Sorry?
Should we put one there?
Yes.
At the police, did you say the police?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you said library?
Library,
schools?
police, and schools.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
Because I would say, and, you know, let's see how.
What's the
quick
total
my-
cost for a charging station now? One individual, if we were to buy it on our own?
About $2,700 plus the installation.
So we're basically getting one free?
We're paying, well, $2,700 plus the installation, we're getting 6.
We're getting 6 what?
6 charging stations.
So I thought it said 3
They're
additional.
double-ended, they're double pumps.
Yeah, to it.
Oh, yeah, but it's 3 stations.
3
It's just-
stations, but there's 2.
Yeah, 2 cords.
2
on each one.
hoses.
Yeah. Hoses.
I'm sorry,
It's electrical, man, it's not
terribly
hose.
unsophisticated. Okay, the sewer enterprise fund is asking for 3 transfers from $6,000 from engineering fees, $1,500 from legal, and $2,800 from repair and maintenance of vehicles to salary superintendent, salaries permanent labor, and salaries overtime. And new employee added in 19 was originally budgeted to come out of highway only,
Right.
but it was changed thereafter to split between water and sewer only. So we're doing that transfer. Number 6, from the water revenue account, $36,000 to the salaries for the superintendent, the permanent laborers and overtime, for the same reason as before. Okay. The last 3 transfers from the Golf Enterprise Fund, $40,000 from equipment leases, $15,240 from capital projects, and $20,000 from maintenance employees, to pesticides, repair and maintenance of equipment, fringe benefits, maintenance energy, maintenance rentals, maintenance repair and maintenance of irrigation system, gasoline, seed, top dressing, I don't know what ornaments are, okay, and supplies. And originally, as you know, the Golf Enterprise Fund had budgeted money for equipment leases and capital projects, but instead chose to forego those leases But we did create some deficiencies in other accounts as expected, including the repair and maintenance of equipment and some other supplies, including the pesticides. So this is going to move this money over to cover those deficits.
Now, the finance committee signed off on this?
Finance committee has voted for this, but because it takes, for these transfers to occur, it takes the vote of both boards.
Mhm. But
These
they had no
board-
problems with
They
it?
had no problems with it. These,
It's just, it's at the end of the year, right? So it doesn't matter, it's just money that they're taking from one line item and substituting that to make up for other line items. So if there's a shortfall in the line item, like the fertilizer for the golf, it's a big one, $20-something thousand.
Right,
You can't not fertilize your golf course, so.
right, right.
They try to do the best they can at the beginning of the year, making a budget and working within that budget, but sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's why the moving around of the money. It's basically just a moving around within the budget of.
you have this opportunity to do this all the way through July 15th. Julie, our finance director, has suggested that she'd like to do this only twice. Once in preparation and once for the final. And so this is with the preparation, and the final will come on the 10th of July, in time for our meeting on the 13th of July. Personally, I prefer to, especially for the departments that are under the Board of Selectmen, to go through the board first and then go to the Finance Committee. It's just that the way the timing of the meetings occurs, it goes to the Finance Committee first. But it can't go forward without the approval of both boards.
If the Board of Selectmen had a problem, we could change it and have to go back to the finance. committee.
Yes.
So, not a big deal.
So I need your vote on this.
Is there a motion to approve the requested transfers?
So moved.
Second? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next item is a fire department reserve fund transfer request for $6,000 to repair the driveway apron. I guess that's where the driveway meets the road at Station 2. There's a description included with the package.
I have a better picture than the scan allows.
Aren't they gonna replace the whole driveway?
We're gonna replace the
whole
whole
thing.
driveway.
Oh, you're gonna replace the whole driveway?
The whole thing.
Okay.
It's broken up pretty badly.
What about color, huh? I don't get color.
Yeah, this is much better, actually.
I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, actually, to be honest with you, Ms. Casper, one of your suggestions was to take care of this, because as you see, this was broken up along the edges that you had pointed out, but it's far more pervasive than I had thought. It's right underneath, this is all collapsing here, and it has no base. So we're gonna rip this out. Dan's gonna put a proper base under it. We're gonna put a proper coating under it. In addition, while we're there, we noticed an issue with a tree on this side of the property that's impaling the roof. And so we're gonna take care of that at the same time.
I stopped by there today, I'm
Yeah,
gonna trim some of
it's
the
a hardwood
branches.
tree, I don't wanna take it out, but we do need to trim it back.
I was gonna say, could we do something with the tree overhanging the roof? It's not good for the roof. It's not good for the
Right.
building, quite
No.
honestly, so.
I mean, the
some
next step
trim.
would be, it's a hardwood tree.
So
So
nice
it would
tree.
require a Board of Selectmen approval to take out the hardwood tree, but we could trim it,
Trim the tree.
which we want
Right.
to trim the tree and not lose the tree. And so it stops bothering the roof. And then there's a couple of scout projects that are there to help us improve the exterior of the building. And so let's clean this up.
Is there a motion to approve the requested transfer?
So moved?
Second?
Second,
Further-
transfers in the amount of $6,000.
$6,000. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Assistant Treasurer Collector job descriptions and discussion of that. We, in the past, have had a Assistant Collector. We have not had an Assistant Treasurer, the other way around.
Yeah.
We've had an Assistant Treasurer, we have not had an Assistant Collector. You sure?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all right. So we are now looking to create the position of Assistant Treasurer Collector within the town, which would work with that title. A job description has been distributed. Apparently, the job's been advertised. We have a candidate for the position. But at this point, we are just looking to approve the job description that was circulated.
With an exception. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but here's the key. The job description I submitted, and then comments came in from the board. Mr. Casper suggested that we add in some line about responsibility for the eligibility of retirement, health insurance, and other employment benefits and the reconciliation of those. I've added that to the job description, so I'll submit it to you again for reapproval.
Just because that was part of the assistant treasurer's
Yeah.
job description.
That was a good suggestion, we're gonna incorporate it, so once we do that, I'll also resubmit it for your approval. Job description, but, you know, when I get it in a proper form, I guess.
Should we take action or table it?
I
till
would
next
table
time?
it till the next meeting.
Table it to next
Yeah,
meeting? Okay.
as long as I can act on the job description as presented until you officially approve it.
Okay.
And we're going into executive session, Mr. Chairman, to discuss it, so I think
Okay.
that might warrant some discussion around the job description as well, so.
Okay. So, motion to table for now,
So moved?
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll bring that on the agenda for next time, we'll discuss in executive session. Town administrators report.
Could I have one thing for you? At the request of the board, we looked at the possibility of expanding the hours at the town barn. It is a possibility, we're doing it in overtime. We will probably, we cannot start it in this fiscal year, it will start in July, and we'll advertise those hours changes. We're go to do this, I think it's a great idea. We'll see how it goes. It will run, normally it will run through October, so it'll be March through October. This year it'll be July through October.
Do we want to consider maybe going into November just because of fall season with leaves? And Mr. Cabral and I talked about, that's really, March is not a big deal. I mean, not what
I
many
do it
people are
till it
cleaning up their,
snows.
most people aren't cleaning up their stuff in
I'll go until the
March.
end of November. I go to the
I mean,
I would start later, I mean, you could start later.
Directing this question, I have no problem with it because the budget, I think we can accommodate it next year. We might have to do a small transfer, but it's not a lot of money.
No, it's
But it's a
not.
tremendous amount of convenience.
But I think we need to go to the end of November because that's leaf cleanup
Well, I
season,
think what I
right?
would suggest.
I mean, that's
if
when
I
most
may,
people are out there
till it
hauling
snows.
branches and
I am,
leaves and.
I am.
Till it
Absolutely.
snows.
Well, no,
People stop
you
playing
gotta,
with the
you gotta be
property.
considerate about the guy that's working the hours too. That's a savvy man. You wanna be stuck at work at Saturday until 5 o'clock at night? I don't know. You know,
I'm confused.
it's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday, right? We're extending an hour
You're
and a half.
gonna make this
on
guy
Saturday.
stay from 2:30 to 5 o'clock, 2.5 extra hours, and you wanna be doing that, 6 months out of the year. I don't think that's,
So I'm confused. Do you want me to extend it in November or not?
Yeah, but I don't think we wanna start it in March. I don't think there's a need to start it in March.
Oh, okay, all right,
How
sorry.
many people
Okay,
are
I'm
cleaning up
looking
the
at
yard
other
in March unless snow is, you're dropping snow in
Yeah, it
there?
depends.
Well, you're doing the winter cleanup, but
Whatever.
you want to start in April then?
Whatever, a month's a month, I don't care, but I'm
I
just
mean,
trying to
we
make.
can- I can
I
do
think
whatever.
let's see what demand,
Sense.
I would say let's be flexible, let's see what demand is. I mean,
Okay.
they're gonna know what activity looks like and just,
Okay.
if they're 2 o'clock, if they're very busy in March and they feel that there's a need, if they're very busy in November and they feel there's a need, I mean, let's be flexible,
Well,
let's see.
they'll be-
let's
And
see
I
what-
think we need to have a
Let's see what the
definitive
residents need.
ending, end of
Well,
November.
fairness,
I
yeah.
mean,
So if you want
just in case we get a freak
I
snowstorm.
want to
October
advertise it, and I don't want to
1st,
say
you know.
it's advertised, that we're now open till 5, except of course now we're closing early. So I want to know,
Right.
you want to do it
No,
till
it should be
November?
a concrete
April
thing.
1st through November 30th
Let's
seems
let's
reasonable.
talk to the employees, the union, Mr. Noble, I did the DBW contract, we should just discuss it with the union, see what.
We're all set with the,
They're fine.
we just
So
have to pay
pass it.
overtime, that's all.
Yeah.
So-
April 30th to November, April
April
1st
30th,
to
April 1st to
30th.
November,
That's fine.
30th.
Try it.
November 30th?
November,
try it.
I would go November 30th.
okay. That's fine.
I don't think we need to vote on that. No,
I
I don't think we need to
think you
vote on
need
that. No.
to, just as long as you're aware that we didn't budget for it, so there'll be a small transfer at some point in the future.
Town administrators report, we're still in that.
That's it, I'm done,
You're done.
I'm done.
Selectmen announcements, I'm not sure what that means. Anybody have anything to announce?
Happy Father's Day!
Happy Father's Day. All right. Our next meeting, what the agenda says is not correct?
It's July 16th.
Our next meeting is July 16th at 5 PM. Okay.
Is that a Tuesday?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
5
thanks,
PM.
Rick.
Yeah.
That was.
I'm just checking.
All right, and next item on the agenda is executive session. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session under General Law 38, Section 21A2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel, animal control officer, assistant treasurer, collector position, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigating position of the public body. as I declare, and we will not return to public session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A roll call vote, Mr. DeRoche,
Yes.
Mr. Gasper,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. We are in executive session. This meeting is adjourned, reconvening in executive session, not to return to open session.